My daughter Amy and I have never had a very good relationship at all. I didn't get custody of her until she was 14 years old. And then when I got custody of her, it seemed like all she wanted to do was try to hurt me.
I want my mother and my sister both to find peace. Both of them have suffered for 20 years over this situation, and I think it's time for them to heal it properly.
Amy was having babies at a very young age. She was just a teenager, and she was having one right after the other. By the time she was 19, she had 3. Amy was living with me, and I told her that she had to start paying rent and carrying her own weight around the house, and she just moved out. When she left, it wasn't pretty. It was a big fight, and at the top of her lungs, she screamed this at me, that something was going to happen to one of my grandkids and that I would live to regret it.
My mother Pam and my sister Amy had gotten into an altercation with each other. My nephew passed 3 days later.
My sister came and picked me up, took me to the hospital, and they had Amy in an interrogation room, and they wouldn't even let me see her. When I saw my grandson laying on the gurney at the hospital, it just took everything out of me, and I fell. I had to catch myself on the gurney with his body.
The reason my mom had a doubt was because my sister had shouted some very vulgar words out of anger with my mother, and she was young. She was 18, 19, so you know, she was a teenager.
I think my daughter Amy might have had something to do with my grandson's death, because at midnight, the baby was screaming and crying. She couldn't control him. She wanted to get out of the house really bad that night. You know, the next morning he's gone, and then after the funeral, all she could think of was, I'm all dressed up. I got a date tonight. You know, and I just couldn't believe the date was more important. How could you even think of going out on a date when your baby just died?
My mom wants the results to say she didn't, but she still lives with that doubt. So she's like, she needs to do this for herself to move forward. And my sister's angry.
Well, I hope that Amy didn't have anything to do with it. I love her. She doesn't feel like I love her, but that doesn't have nothing to do with love. She spoke those words, and it's not a choice that I have, that I feel this way. It's just not a choice. I hope she didn't.
I could only imagine being my mother and thinking, did my child do this to my grandchild? Or being my sister and saying my own mom is saying this, that there's a possibility.
It's very hard for Ashley because she is stuck in the middle.
It hurts because I love my mom and I love my sister, and here, like, there's so much division. I want us to enjoy going out together, eating dinner together, not divided. I really want restoration for them.
If she fails the test, I've always, in my head, you know, when I watched Steve Wilkos' show, I always say, throw her in jail, throw her in jail. It doesn't matter. They need to go, they need to go, even though it was 20 years ago. But I don't want my daughter in jail. I don't want my daughter there. I hope she didn't have nothing to do with it.
How long ago did your son pass?
November 5th, 1997.
So it's been a long time.
Yes. My whole adult life, I've lived with this hole in my heart.
Why do you think your mother believes that you murdered your own son?
When she kicked me out of her house 3 days before he passed away, I was leaving her house with my children, and it was cold, and it was raining, I believe, and I said, I hope something's gonna happen to one of these kids, or I hope something's gonna happen and you're gonna regret it. I was more thinking like pneumonia or a cold. I did not think that I was gonna wake up.
Why did she kick you out of the house?
Because I didn't go and cash my welfare check on the 1st so she could go to bingo.
So your son that passed away, he was 5 months old?
Yes, sir.
And how did you discover that anything was wrong?
My friend had came over to her mom's house to take a shower, and she walked past me when she got out, and I kind of woke up to that, and I seen her walk past, and then I got this feeling inside that something wasn't right, and I went over to him, and I kind of stared at the blanket for a while to see if it was moving, because I just knew something was wrong. And then nothing was going on. So I put my hand on the blanket to see if I could feel him moving, and I couldn't feel him. And then I put my ear down there to try to hear him breathing or to feel some warmth, and there was nothing. So I went running up to the bedroom that my friend was at, and I'm just like, he's not breathing, he's not breathing. And she went running, she flipped him over. Half of his face was white. Half of his face was purple. I've never seen anything that horrible in my life.
How old were you when this happened?
I was 18.
So they take your son to the hospital?
By the ambulance, yes.
By the
We rode in the ambulance to the hospital. He was already dead at home.
But they were trying to revive him, I would take it?
They put this oxygen mask on his face and pressed really hard, because it was a really large one, because he was only 5 months old. And it broke the blood vessels in his face right here. So they had to cake the makeup on, you know, so I can see why there's question.
So he gets to the hospital. I assume they declared him dead
They
there?
took him to the hospital. They sent me in this other room by myself. The nurse came in and says to me, Ashton's dead. Was there anything wrong with him? And I looked up at her and realized she was the same lady that saw him a couple days prior, because he was breathing like... And she told me he was fine and to take him home and to give him Tylenol. And then he died 3 days later.
What did they say the official cause of death was?
SIDS.
SIDS. And the only person that's questioned this is your mother?
Correct.
Okay. So you're here to tell your story, and you took a lie detector test because you want to clear your name.
Yes, sir.
We're not questioning you whether you did this or not, okay? We're telling your story for you, helping you tell your story. So after your son passes, what goes on with your relationship with your mother over the next 20 years?
Me and my mom have never, ever had a good relationship. I technically really didn't even meet her till I was 12. So, the woman never hugged me. She don't never say she loves me. And, you know, I don't ever say it to her.
She's your biological mother?
Yes, sir.
Why didn't you meet her until you were 12?
Some things happened to me when I was younger, and I was taken away and put in a home for a little while.
Why would you even say those things about him if you didn't?
Get out of my face. I have nothing to say to you.
I don't
Bye.
care.
Don't talk to me. Don't even talk to me.
No.
Amy.
You're a liar. Get out of my face. Don't let her get by me. I'm so serious. I don't want her by me. I'm so serious.
Why,
Where
Amy?
can I go?
Why
I'm
you
so
running?
serious.
Why
No,
you running,
I don't
Amy?
care. Don't let her by me. I don't want her
Why
by
are you
me.
running?
Because I don't like you.
Nobody's ever done
So what? That doesn't have nothing to do with Ashton.
Go.
That doesn't have nothing.
You don't have
you
nothing to
never
do with
liked
anybody.
Me.
Get
you
out of my
never
face.
liked me. That's why Ashton's dead.
Ma'am.
You don't talk to any of my kids.
Okay.
Get the heck out of me. Don't you touch
Don't
me.
spit on me. I'm blocking your spit.
Let's go back on stage.
I don't want her by. I don't want
I
her
know.
on the stage with that woman.
Okay, but the point is you're here to prove to her.
Okay, then let's get the results.
Okay.
That's all I
Okay,
want.
but
I don't
hold
want
on.
nothing else, please.
Okay, ma'am, you
The
gotta...
night that it happened, I went to the police. I told them what I felt. They wouldn't do anything. They
What'd you
just
tell
told me
them?
I was a grieving grandmother.
What did you tell them?
I told them that I believed my daughter had something to do with it because she had just told me 3 days earlier. She had him out in the cold October rain with no clothes on.
She says you kicked him out.
I didn't kick him out. I told her she had to start paying rent. She lived with me for 3 months. She had 2 children.
She does say that you were mad that she didn't cash your welfare check and you couldn't play bingo.
I wasn't. That's not true. I told her she had to pay rent after 3 months. The 5th month came, and I told her I wanted rent money, and she was willing to go move in with somebody else that paid more to them than I asked. I'm her mother. I was taking care of, me and my daughter took care of that baby and the other one.
Do you have a relationship with your daughter now?
No, I don't. We did have until I called the show.
Before the little boy was discovered, you know, in the bed, did you ever see your daughter abuse him?
No. I've seen her neglect him, but not abuse him.
When you say neglect, what do you mean?
She never, my other daughter had to give him the bath or feed him, or me, or, you know, me and my daughter had to do everything for that baby. I was working. I was taking care of other people.
So it was your idea to come on the show?
Yes, it was.
Yeah. How you doing?
Been better.
Oh, I'm sure. Well, if your wife's going to stand, why don't you stand too? It's just politeness. How long have you two been together, Peter?
15 years.
15 years?
Yep.
So long time, but after the fact of her losing her second
Yeah.
child. How has this affected her?
It's just totally crazy. My wife, I don't have an evil bone in her body to begin with. Our son, he was born a month early.
So you have a son,
We have a son.
and how old's your son?
He's 5 years old now.
He's 5 years old.
Healthy, perfectly healthy.
What are
This
what are
is a
your
waste of
thoughts
my
about
time.
her mother?
When she's on drugs, we're off.
Well, I don't know the woman, so I don't know.
My feelings on her is she's out in left field.
First of all, I just like to know, do you have a relationship with your sister?
I do.
Okay. Are you guys close?
Yeah.
Okay. So you guys get along. Okay. So you don't believe that your sister had anything to do with the death of her son?
No.
Okay. Any feelings on your mother's strong opinion that she believes that Amy did have something to do with the death?
My feelings on it, I understand from the fight. You know, like looking at it, this is a very emotional subject.
But we're all going to find out who the liar is here soon.
I'm not lying.
Yes, you are, because
I'm
I was not
simply
living
saying
with
how
you.
I felt
I
for
was
the
not
last
living
20
with you
years.
the night before he died.
Oh, well, you
so
got
you
better
got it
glue than
all
I do,
wrong,
right?
honey.
And we asked her, are you withholding any information about how your son died? She answered no. Did you ever strike your 5-month-old son? She answered no. Did you cause your 5-month-old son's death in any way? She answered no. The results came back the same to each question, and they came back that Amy told the truth.
Glad.
Told you.
Of course
You
I'm
can be
glad.
glad
I
with
didn't
your
wanna
proof
live
that you
with that
sleep
my
with
whole
every
life.
night, woman.
It had to stop.
Oh,
It's been 20
I'm
years.
so done.
How can I change the way I feel, though? Just shut my mouth and say,
Well,
well,
do you
it's my
not-
daughter.
I mean-
She's
felt
my
that way to
daughter. She
begin
didn't
with.
do it because she's my daughter. I
Yeah.
see it all the time.
Unconditional love.
What if it would have came back that she did, though, Pete?
She wasn't even in the right state of mind to even take that test. After being accused,
Do you think I've
20
been in the
years,
right state of
15
mind for
years
20
I've had
years?
to deal with
Just
this.
don't even talk
you
to
weren't
me,
there
Pete.
for
Go
her
to
at
hell.
all. For 15 years, who's been there when she's been depressed, crying for weeks at a time?
And you let her do it.
Thank you. Thank you, Steve. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
I don't understand, but
I know the
my-
struggle
lost her own
with
child.
the struggle with
but
the
all I can
fight
say
the
is
3
20
days before.
20 years of holding something when they had a cause of death. She was never arrested. She was
Right.
never a suspect. So you just held on to something over an angry statement 2 days prior,
Yeah.
which is, you know, from an
unfortunate.
18-year-old girl with 2 children.
You just
Gotta be
threw out your house.
It's got to be overwhelming to be a teenager with 2 kids. Hey, she made her bed. She's got to lay in it, but you got to understand the maturity level of an 18-year-old mother, right?
We were doing the best we could to help her out for as long as
understand.
I could.
Listen,
I had triplets at home.
I'm not casting, you know,
She took
shame
care.
on anybody. All I'm saying is a tragedy became compounded by your feelings.
Right.
And now, not only did you lose a grandson,
Now
you
I
probably
lost
lost
a
a
daughter.
daughter. Good luck to you.
Thanks for coming on.
Can you relate to this story? Go to www.stevewilkos.com to get my help